My name is Rosa Ficek, and it is my great pleasure to moderate this panel with such inspiring speakers. Edmy Angelica Ayala Rosado is a young Afro-Puerto Rican journalist and communicator who graduated from the University of Puerto Rico. Edmy coordinates community scientific projects at Ciencia Puerto Rico and leads an independent, feminist, anti-racist, and scientific platform that includes a podcast and multiple media collaborations.
Thank you.
Danilo Trinidad Rivera is a computational sciences graduate fellow in neuroscience at New York University and past coordinator of statistical analysis for the Puerto Rican COVID-19 municipal case investigation and contact tracing system. He is passionate about networks, sometimes of neurons and sometimes of people. Edmy and Danilo, it is such a treat to be in dialogue with both of you this morning. So to start us out, could each of you tell us a little bit about your background and how it is that you came to be involved in science?
You want me to start? Well, it's so nice to be here. First of all, thank you. So honored to share this stage with two people that I love and so much respect and exemplify what Ciencia Boricua is. My background is in journalism, and I've always been a curious person. And that's like the best quality you can have as a person to become a journalist. And that's one of the best qualities you can have to become a scientist. So it was only natural for me to lean into scientific evidence to sustain the world I think and the world I believe is possible. So I got my start in just being curious, using it to support my journalistic endeavors. And then I started with Ciencia Puerto Rico and I fell in love. And now I'm in a committed relationship, but I'll tell you all about that later, Danilo.
Well, I went to a specialized school in science and mathematics here in Puerto Rico, CROEM. For those who have attended, it's also the school that received Doctora Fabiola Cruz Lopez as well. So the contact tracing system has much to thank the public education system of Puerto Rico. And it's there where I first became a scientist. From there, I continued in public education to the University of Puerto Rico in Calley. And heading back to New York University is all about heading back to my roots. I was born in New York. I am a proud New Yorican with a Dominican father who is now living in that great melting pot we call New York City and asks itself if its identity is truly a melting pot, or what is it that we truly want in diversity in science. So I think I'm continuing my formation in science there at New York University, and much appreciation to the communities that formed me and identified me.
Thank you for that. And my next question is about what it is like to do science here in Puerto Rico. As all of us are aware, the situation here is very complex, right? Because of the debt crisis, because of colonialism, and now increasingly because of climate change. So within this context, what does Ciencia Boricua mean to you?
You want me to start again? Well, to me, Ciencia Boricua is what Puerto Rico is, who Puerto Ricans are. Good people, good, kind-hearted people that put forth the resources that they have, so little or much, for the people that they care about, their neighbors, their families, their extended families. And to me, Ciencia Boricua is grit, is solidarity, is love, is responsibility, is camaraderie, and it's, to me specifically, through my strategy as a communicator, is realistic hope. And what I call realistic hope is the idea of using scientific evidence to guide us in our journey toward a world that truly gives way to a dignified life for all. So to me, that's Ciencia Puerto Rico. Ciencia Puerto Rico is community. Ciencia Puerto Rico is people that put their nation and their patriotismo before personal interests. And it humbled me when I began to understand how big, powerful, loving, and committed Ciencia Boricua is. And it's an example of a community of professionals that understand that those of us who have a lot to give and do it so selflessly, voluntarily, and with full heart. And Danilo is one of the first people that I met of Ciencia Boricua, and I call us like rebels with strategy, and Danilo is like the best example of a rebel with strategy. I don't know if you agree.
I very much believe in what Luis Avilés of our Centro Médico, or Recinto de Ciencia Médica, professor in statistics, calls militant statistics, a militant statistician and a militant scientist. We all have agendas. Some of us have good agendas. And I think an agenda that puts diversity at the center of responding to necessity for creating diverse responses is crucial to be placed on the agenda and defended in every single moment. With that being the case, Ciencia Boricua is that response. Ciencia Boricua is that defiance of what people tell us and we take to be true, but put to test and put to the ground and wrestle for it and demand policies, strategies, and livelihoods that we deserve. And I think there's a great tradition of scientists all the way back to Betance and Agustín Estal through Luis Avilés, who is probably reaching his retirement soon, but is more sharp than ever. And this book, Contra la Tortura de los Números, I think identifies Ciencia Boricua as our source of faith. Our source of faith that even when we're tortured as scientists, as Galileo Galilei was, and he put down his face, we remember this apocryphal phrase, the world still moves. And even when Huracán Fiona can come through and delete all of your work, be it on a computer or be it in a -80 refrigerator where you lose all of your samples overnight, Ciencia Boricua aún así se mueve. It still moves. And that's Ciencia Boricua.
Thank you. Thank you for these wonderful, powerful, beautiful descriptions of Ciencia Boricua. My next question digs a little bit deeper in what the two of you have been up to over the past few years. Could each of you give us an example of how you have put Ciencia Boricua into action, be it during the pandemic or before?
Yeah, I've always been interested in using science in my journalism, so I specialize in scientific journalism, but I pivoted because of the pandemic to science communication because I was working as an AM radio producer, watching all this develop and happen, and I didn't see things grounded. I didn't see the strategy to empower people with what we could do. And I saw how the Ciencia Boricua was basically telling us, hey, it's gonna hit us and it's gonna hit us hard, but it doesn't have to be such a tragedy if we use science and if we use science-based strategies. So I started collaborating with the Ciencia Boricua, I started collaborating with Ciencia Puerto Rico and my dear colleague Monica, and I became a coordinator of a project, a public health project, what ended up being a public health project called Aquí Nos Cuidamos, which means here we take care of each other. And we made 4 public health service campaigns that basically just told people like, hey, it's physical distance, not social distance. I'm surprised that was such a big hit because it's like people didn't think about that. And we as communicators were like, we need to assess what we truly have to do to take care of each other. So we did that, and basically has changed my whole career. Now I see myself as a community manager between community leaders and scientific leaders. And I have to say hi to one of our community leaders that I see here, Lucia. Lucia is one of the best examples of what happens when you combine scientific leaders and community leaders. Lucia, put up billboard, Lucia. Put up billboards up in her community, telling people what they have to do. She tackles everything, and I think I'm so honored to be at the center of the combining of two communities that give their all for Puerto Rico. And it just brings me to tears some days.
I think that was beautiful.
Thank you. You can go to aquinoscuidamos.org.
So the way I got involved with the contact tracing system eventually starts where Puerto Ricans always look for their experts, Facebook. So I noticed that there was a paucity in the visualization and discussion and actual analysis of the data being published. Right? So we were very fortunate to be under the leadership of a fantastic Secretary of Health, Dr. Lorenzo Gonzalez Feliciano, who made a priority. No matter how bad the paradigm looked, that data was to be public. And in that context, I was able to be contacted by Franklin Avilet Baque, who's in the crowd today, soon to be hooded as a doctor, thanks to the work that occurs here at SACNAS and convinces us to pursue graduate careers. So Franklin, on his way to Johns Hopkins University, says, hold on, Puerto Rico needs its experts. We can't just let the brains to continue to drain. And he reached out not just to me, who was within his cohort, and we were both chemists. I'm a very proud chemist. Licenciado right there is because I am a chemist. And he reached out to every generation, all the way back to Jaime Claudio, Ibrahim Perez, and the youngins that were still in the university, and we formed a coalition called COSACO, right? Coalición de Salud Comunitaria. Mucha honra. And under Franklin's leadership with Dr. Jaime Claudio, we continued to build bridges with the Department of Health. And I crossed the bridge. Doctora Fabiola Cruz Lopez requested I cross over from COSACO and join her in the establishment of the official COVID-19 response program. And she bet on us. She bet on the young people who would accompany her and would trust in her leadership. But she also trusted that even though there is a system that has failed us so many times, there's also people that have worked on that system, that have integrated protocols that are for our usage and are for our implementation. So I also want to give another round of applause to Melissa Marsan, because she worked in the context when urgency became complacency, and we needed to maintain our communities aware of the things that they had to do. So that work is also crucial, and it's fundamental to my understanding of Ciencia Boricua in this moment, and what I continue to exercise as an advocate of public health when urgency becomes complacency. It's a very difficult and thankless job, so I would like to thank her once again.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing or giving us just a little taste of what your amazing work is like. So to wrap up our panel this morning, I would like to ask about the future and what your vision is for the future of Ciencia Boricua. So let's all jump into a time machine. Let's zip forward 500 years into the future, and let's imagine that things are really, really good. Let's imagine that things in Puerto Rico are actually really great. Imagine. What does Ciencia Boricua, in a few words, what does Ciencia Boricua look like in this future?
500 years is a strong time frame. I hope my children and I hope my grandchildren, at least, can see us shine again. We had nuclear reactors in the 1950s when that was the vanguard. We learned that we could do better in Puerto Rico, and we could ask for better alternatives like the sun. We want the sun, queremos sol. Así que, ¿verdad? The future technology I envision in Puerto Rico isn't just a copycat of what we might see in the north. It's what we can do right here in the belt, in the Caribbean, en Puerto Rico, en el 100 por 35, el archipiélago de Vieques, Culebra, y esas islas municipios que también contribuyen, that contribute significantly to our scientific development and have paid the price of scientific development in sickness, and it is our job to restore their health. So I think their children deserve that. I don't think that should occur in 500 years.
Yeah. I would say that Ciencia Boricua is precedent. Sometimes systemic change seems so daunting because we don't have precedents. And you can see how Ciencia Boricua, because of the lack of sometimes resources or time, because they do it voluntarily, or collaboration from the government, have become so creative and innovative and think outside of the box. So I think in 500 years, such an anthropological question of you, I see a world where the main centers of scientific engagement and scientific creation are in the communities, at the community level. I see a world that is led by and for communities, and I see science being integrated in our politics and economics, and scientists being part of our political structures. And I would add to that Ciencia Boricua works hard at abolishing the systems of oppression that keep us without being able to get our heads out of the water, because they see that we have solutions that are not being used. And just last week, I published an essay in Atmos magazine called "The Abolitionist Born After Maria," and it speaks on two scientific efforts, one in Vieques, an agroecological farm, and the other one, Casa Pueblo. If you know about Casa Pueblo, you know about Ciencia Boricua.
Thank you, Edmy. Thank you, Danilo, for sharing.
Thank you, Rosa.
For sharing your stories, for sharing your insights, your ideas, and your vision of the future. So let's give them a final round of applause.
Thank you.
Okay. No nos vamos a bajar.